Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I am Dr. Al Moomin. I go by Dr. A. I am your brand ambassador, your educator, your passionate advocate about empowering students and teachers. Without any further ado, let's get to this evening's topic. We will be talking about the power of student voice and centering Black students' experiences. So, student voices refers to ways students share their perspectives, influence on educational decision making. So, the key is not about just listening to the students, even though that's the first step, but it's about incorporating their feedback, their perspective into the decision making process. And today we are exploring Black students' experiences. Why? Because we want to be intentional about prioritizing their experiences and their perspective to shape an equitable learning environment. So, the end goal is to make learning inclusive and equitable. Everyone is included, all voices are heard, and everyone is set on their path to success. So, why student voices matter? First of all, we want them to become agents of change. And to start you off, I'd like to share a story from my personal experience as a department chair. I worked in a military school, so oftentimes student voices, are heard but not amplified. So student can give feedback, but perhaps it won't change the decision-making process. So what I did, I established a committee and I involved teachers in the process. And I only took a role when, the decision was or the vote was tied. Students will present their perspective on the grading process. Because it was a language school, oftentimes the meaning is lost in interpretation. And teachers went by the protocol, the grading protocol. They didn't want to veer because it will, create like a precedent. This time we allow this answer, next time we will allow that answer. However, in the process, student voices were lost. So I allowed each student to come before the committee, present their case, and if the committee so fit to grant them the points, I empowered them to do that. So both students and teachers were heard. In the process, the school took these notes to update the grading protocol. So in this scenario, students were agent of change. Their feedback allowed the school to update the grading protocol. Increases engagement and motivation. When I allowed students to voice their opinion, I gave them the power. I created the venue. They approached me to say, well, we want to teach classes. We feel like we'd like to be more involved in the academic process. They are allowed and encouraged to tutor or mentor one on one, but they didn't have the opportunity to teach the entire class, to act as teachers. So, what I did, I created an initiative called Student as Teachers. And basically, each student is paired with a mentor, with a teacher, to review their lesson plan, to give them feedback on the activities design, and then, start the process of teaching. During the process, the mentor would take notes, would observe the class, and give feedback. The class excelled. They achieved really excellent results. Overall, the department, success rate increased from 6.4% to 9.3% in less than a year. Fostering inclusion. So basically, you know, the department became a learning community. So not only teachers are in charge of the learning process, but also students are involved in the learning process. In a way, the curriculum was democratized. It's not, top down. It's basically parallel. Everyone can contribute. And that allows for excellence. That is the environment that encourage, academic achievement. It builds strong connection between teachers and students. You want to have that connection, you want to have that relationship because you want to be on top of the academic achievement of your students. So students started discussing their learning issues with the teachers. We start creating learning plans, tailored learning plans to allow each student to succeed. So basically building that rapport with your students allow you to engage them further and create a transformative learning experience for them. Let's take a look at the historical context and the challenges. So, in terms of discipline and disciplinary issues, we've noticed that Black students are 15% of high schools. However, just 6 to 9% of them are in the advanced placement courses. Oftentimes, Black students are asked to become athletes, but no one asks them if they want to join Harvard. No one asks them if they want to become scientists. Part of my career journey was working with Envirolution, a nonprofit in Reno, Nevada. And oftentimes we notice that Black students come from marginalized community, historically marginalized communities. They don't want to become scientists. They don't want to become engineers. They lack the confidence. So that type of restriction, coupled with disciplinary issues, leads to having students lose confidence in the learning process. It will impact the learning outcomes, it will impact engagement and success. You would see course access gap. So, Black and Latino schools offer fewer STEM courses. One of the things that I'm personally proud of, I consider it one of my achievements, is basically when participation in STEM courses through Envirolution, the nonprofit that I was leading, increased 44% for Latino students and 49 for female students. So basically allowing the marginalized groups to pursue career opportunities, to pursue STEM education courses that were not allowed or not available for them. So basically, these historically marginalized group, they deserve the chance. They want to be heard, to be involved. That's why their voices matter. Gift program gaps. So the Black students are underrepresented by 50% or more in gifted education. These percentages are not to be taken lightly. And to be honest with you, I reviewed the information from the Department of Education as well as from Education Week and other academic resources to come up with these, statistics and data for you. I believe in data-driven decision making. So rather than, having the academic program, the education process be guided by intuition, as important as it is, oftentimes as teachers, we follow our gut, and then that oftentimes is true. However, I want to enhance our approach to learning through data and numbers. And that's why I always review the statistics and see where are we at. Cultural exclusion. So oftentimes Black students are ignored when it comes to their feedback, when it comes to their lived experiences, when it comes to their engagement in curriculum development. And again, allow them to voice their opinion, to reflect their experiences, will enhance the curriculum and will promote growth as well. I also want to kind of share a couple of success stories. So, for example, the Sacramento State University, they are honoring Black students through a scholar recognition programs. They did a study. They, started the process by examining 23 campuses. And then, they did the study, came up with 13 recommendation alluding to the 13th Amendment. And then each campus decided to do something. And they focused on this scholarly program to honor them, to allow these students to get the chance that they won't get otherwise. Chicago Public Schools rolled out 5-year Black student success plan to bridge the equity gap. We have the GEO academics, or they want to help their students, earn a college degree starting in high school. We have the June Jordan School for Equity, centered around social justice and small group learning. And the Tree Scott Freedom School, running a youth-led anti-racist groups and workshops. And we will touch later on that as one of the solutions to empower students in the classroom. Inside Out literary art, using creative writing to allow the students to voice their opinion and boost their confidence. Movers and Shakers in New York City uses AR tech to spotlight marginalized history and empowering students. I didn't want us just to focus on challenges. I also want us to focus on success stories so as we can incorporate them in the classroom. And here comes our strategies to elevate Black voices. So, student councils and a Black leadership club. So, invite your students, invite your Black students to help shape policy. Give them a platform. Sometimes I, joke with my teachers and I say, give them the microphone. Allow them to voice their opinion, to share their perspectives and share their expectations as well. Also help them work as mentors. One of the other initiatives that I helped was students teaching students. So each student was assigned and allowed to work with a mentee to help them not only excel academically, but also find other ways to engage with the curriculum whether through a skit, whether through a newsletter, and many students start creating newsletters in target language, and appointing an editor, appointing a chief editor. It was really an engaging process. In terms of the Black leadership clubs, it's very important for a Black student to go back to their family and say, I'm the leader. I am part of a leadership club. We talked about this, we talked about that. Here is the policy we discussed. Here are our recommendations. Prepare them for a career path in leadership through the leadership club. Listening sessions and climate surveys. In terms of the listening sessions, I usually conduct them in an empathy circle approach. Basically, the class and I, the team and I, we will sit in a circle. So there's no head, everybody is equal. And then we will fill up a form. If you want the maximum collaboration from me, please do these 3 things. If you do XYZ, you will deter me. So there are 2 components to the circle, to the listening circle. One is to identify what motivates students. Second is to identify what deters them. And then share. After I finish my 2 pages, I will share them with the group. They will also share with me. We continue to circulate these templates. I have even completed the same activity virtually, just to solicit feedback, to solicit information from the students and from the team. In terms of climate surveys, the only tip I have here is to make sure they are anonymous. If you request student name or student information, they will be hesitant. You can also, ask the students to say, what are the things, the 3 things that you'd like to see more of me or see less of me as your teacher? This way, they can write it, they can leave it in your inbox, and they would feel more engaged in the learning process. Black students' unions allow them to create, to be part of a bigger leadership component, and create these spaces for them to allow them to connect with peers. Oftentimes, we think of a peer as a student sitting next to you, but there is another, dimension, if you'd like. How about the student who is sitting in the school, around the corner? How about the student who's at a college or university level? So allow students to engage with, larger community, larger learning community, and play a leadership role, whether they are presenting, whether they are just having like a discussion circle. All these opportunities will allow them to learn from each other and engage with each other. And the value will be empowering the entire learning community in your area. Cultural competence training. So, even if you aren't a principal or assistant principal, still through discussion with your peers while you are having a lunch with your colleague, you can exchange a couple of tips on how to address and deal with racism, biases, how to overcome stereotype issues that come up with the class or during teaching. What can teachers do? So oftentimes, we talk about empowerment, we want to help our students, but the question becomes, so what can I do? What's the first step I should take? Foster inclusive discussions. Make sure that there is a safe space, whether in your office, whether in the classroom. Oftentimes, Black students or marginalized students, they are hesitant to share their opinion in front of a class, especially if they are the minority. From my experience, I was among fewer than 10 women studying law in Iraq. The experience was really impacting, not only on my learning, but the way I engaged with the class. Um, it's true, through the process, I learned how to stand up for myself. And oftentimes, these issues took place when we are studying topics like divorce or child support, things like that. Even topics like rape. Oftentimes, rape as a crime was skipped. The teacher don't want, or the professor don't want to discuss it because students will mock the concept or share derogatory feedback. Nevertheless, through the process, I learned how to stand up for myself. Was it easy? No. Do I want a student to go through what I went through? Of course not. So that's why fostering inclusivity is key. Creating that safe place where a student can voice their opinion without someone mocking them, laughing at them, or marginalize them even more. It may not occur in the class, it may occur in the hallway. And the students need to, be empowered enough to share it with the teacher, to share it with the school administration, and see change take place. So, listening, as I said earlier, is the first step. But acting on what you have listened to is the key. Otherwise, students will not share anything because they can't see the change. Diversifying the curriculum. You know, um, when I used to prepare for my classes, I spent hours just making sure that the images I display to teach student vocabulary are inclusive. And oftentimes I would go a step higher by making sure the marginalized groups, such as Black people, are displayed in positions of power. And that gave them a voice. And I've also noticed class dynamic. So when I used to see, a Black student hesitant to speak, or making a mistake, and everyone in the class would laugh or behave in unprofessional way, I would stop the class, point out what went wrong and how that impact learning, and empower the student to say what do they want to see. Furthermore, I would take a disciplinary action, against any student who would try to marginalize a student or attack them from based on race or based on their background. This is something I did not tolerate right from the beginning, and I would tell my students up front, here's what acceptable, here is what's not acceptable. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I would make them part of the decision making process so as they create agency. That's why I want them to be part of it. Restorative practices. You know, The objective of disciplining a student is not punitive, it should be restorative. So the objective is not to punish, the objective is to amend. How can I fix the situation, not how can I punish the student. First of all, that would create more engagement and less disciplinary issues. So, oftentimes we talk about creativity, we talked about smart decisions. The idea is to restore balance to the class rather than punish somebody. In my experience, that what helped me. I always encouraged my students to remedy the situation versus, issuing a disciplinary action against them. In the worst case scenario, if I have to take a disciplinary action against a student, I would always show them what they can do right. Let's say I caught them cheating. I would say, next time, prepare for your examination. Use, properly accepted tool in the classroom. So, for example, the dictionary was allowed, but using Google Translation was not allowed. And then lay the ground for them to succeed. Furthermore, I would tell them in writing, if you complete these steps, I would issue a positive counseling statement. Basically, disciplinary issues, take place in the military context in writing. So you have to write a statement. Even in that statement, I would say I will issue a positive counseling statement to recognize any effort that you took to remedy the situation. So encourage them to address the issue, to remedy it, to fix it, versus punishing them for doing something. Offer choices. Oftentimes, and again, this is from my background teaching in a military school, homework was an issue because of, the design of the program where a student needs to master a language at a certain level at a set time. So it's 64 weeks, no more. Teachers tend to give heavy homework. The issue with the heavy homework, it deters students. They don't want to be involved anymore. So they figure out ways to go around it. In the process, they don't learn. Just to give you an example, they would divide activities amongst themselves. So 3, 4 of you will do activity A, and the rest will copy it, and another group will do activity B, and the rest will copy it. Rather than doing that, I gave them choices. I called it tiered homework. Here are 3 tiers. Select the tier that works best for you. But to motivate them, I said, if you do the 3rd tier, I would give you a positive counseling statement. Positive counseling statements were very important to them because they can use it for promotion. You cannot imagine how motivating that was for them. I received more than I asked for. I had students go, out of their ways to complete additional activities, to review previous chapters, to get that positive statement. So offer them choices to engage them. Now, here comes active listening. Oftentimes, I would see education leaders nod as they listen. It's true. It's a very, good, encouraging sign to nod as you are engaged in a listening activity. But asking questions, paraphrasing, acknowledging the struggle, and then make a decision based on it. So when I served as a team leader, I had a weekly meeting with the teaching team and with the students, in addition to having open door policy. A student came to me, when we test them, we record the speaking test. And basically the recording is in case the student want to dispute the grade, we can go back and listen to, the utterance and then grade it. The student said, the minute I see the recording device, I panic and I cannot say a word. So I told him, okay, next time I will test you and you won't see the recording device. I hid it. Moreover, I told my student, take your time. You don't need to rush yourself. If you felt like the ideas are escaping you, just raise your hand and I will stop the recording, give you a couple of minutes to collect yourself, and then we will start again. When the student wanted to take their time, I gave it to them. They took 5 minutes thinking about question one. I didn't rush them. I gave them their time. You cannot believe how eloquent they talked. The grade they collected, it boosted their confidence. They started speaking more and more in the classroom. But when you engage with your students, make sure to understand the root causes of the problem, paraphrase it for them. So next time when we let's say conduct a speaking test, would you like me to do X or would you like me to do Y? The objective was to make sure the student was comfortable enough to produce, to perform. That was the main idea. And basically through active listening and taking or making decisions based on what I've heard from my students, I was able to empower them. Co-creating classroom norms, involving the student in what's acceptable in the classroom and what's not acceptable right from the get-go. So during the first day, when I meet my class, I would spend at least 10 to 15 minutes agreeing on the norms that were acceptable. I would also revisit them just in case something changes. And then these norms would go, on the classroom. We will write them together and then refer to them. If something would happen in the classroom that was not acceptable, I would just point out, here's what we agreed on. Why are you behaving that way then? And immediately an apology would take place. Oftentimes, I would just stop, not say anything. And I would hear an apology right away. If you empower your students, allow them to be part of the decision-making process, they will honor that. Humility. Honestly, cultural humility is more important than control, than perfection, than even more important than confidence. To be a part of the learning journey, to create a space where growth can be promoted, you need cultural humility. You need to learn from your student. There were so many times that I thanked my students because I learned from them. And I would always point that to them. They would thank me for teaching them the language, the culture, and I would say, and I learned from you too. Here is what you taught me, and I would list it. I would make sure to acknowledge their contribution, to acknowledge what they brought to the classroom, culturally and academically. Once you treat them as an equal partner in the learning process, you will be able to cultivate more academic performance from them. Here is a question I often received. My classroom includes students from many ethnic backgrounds. What should I do? Celebrate all identities. We rarely get a classroom where one ethnicity dominates. I would celebrate them all. And here are a couple of ways to celebrate them. Build belonging. Make sure that your classroom is a cultural hub. Everybody is welcomed. All ethnicities are included and heard. You know, when exclusion happens, academic performance will deteriorate. So we need to include rather than exclude. In terms of celebrating all year around, we would celebrate cultural heritage. We would celebrate different ethnicities and backgrounds, and students will reward you as well. I had students celebrating the target culture holidays, and making sure to present something to the teachers. Intersectionality. So making sure to recognize how race, language, and identity intersect with each other. How do they come and melt in one pot? What's the outcome? What's the result? And how can that impact your classroom? Listen and act. Honestly, I cannot stress enough how important it is to listen and act. It's not enough to hear the student, it's more important to act on their concerns. Other choices allow them through project-based learning to select what do they want to know, what do they want to learn, and how do they identify with the learning materials. Practice equity. Allow the students to share their needs. What do they need academically? And one tool that helped me was writing journals. Even though we were encouraged to allow students or to have students write in the target language, oftentimes I would tell them, if you cannot write it in the target language, write it in English, and I'll show you how to write it in the target language. My objective was to allow them to share their experiences and reflect their needs in writing. Foster positive racial relationship in your classroom. How do we do that? I have a couple of tools for you. One of them is to create an inclusive learning environment, to make sure that all the voices are heard, all the cultures are represented. One day we will discuss this culture, next day we will discuss this culture. And that's why we need cultural competence. You can give examples even in math. You can have a simple math exercise that reflects a culture or reflect, an idea. At the Quarantine Racism, we have a course designed to help teachers and equip them with tools and resources to foster positive racial relationship in the classroom. The course is for $99. It's a discounted offer, and it comes with a book. as well for you to keep. You can ask your school administrator to cover the cost for you. If that's not a possibility and you'd like to learn more about the course, here is the link for you. It's quarantineracism.com slash ref equal Mishkat, which is my first name. But what I can help you with, I can help you write a grant for you to purchase the course and have the resources and the tools you need to create an inclusive environment in your classroom. If there are other things that you need, so if you'd like to brainstorm and discuss an issue that is going on in your school through the communication of success, which is my little consultancy firm, so to speak. I help teachers, in a group session as a cohort to discuss this issue for 150. So if we are talking 10 teachers, each teacher will pay $15. If you have any other issue that you would like to write a grant about, so if you are missing some tools, missing some resources in your classroom and you want to apply for a grant, I'll be happy to help you write the grant. You can reach out to me at LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is at Mishkat Al Mumin, and I'm very responsive, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Just so you know, in less than 9 months, I secured $46,000 for educational programs. I really have my heart set, so to speak, on educational leadership and empowerment. I am also pursuing my second doctoral degree in the topic. So this is my passion. This is my calling, so to speak. And that's why I'm here with you this evening. Small steps, big impact. Make sure to say their names. So, make sure to pronounce their names correctly and refer to them, in such a way that shows your respect, that shows your inclusivity and reaching out to them to include them. Start the day with a checking in. So, how are you feeling today? These simple steps, they cost nothing, but they have a huge impact. How are you feeling today? How was your morning? How is your class going on? Allow them to share a little bit about themselves and a little bit about their background. And then sharing how they feel. It's a huge step because it means they trust you. Display diverse voices, share a new book with them, a new poster, a quote, a reflection of Black excellence, anything that displays or demonstrate that you care about them, you care about where they come from, not, just grading their papers or giving them feedback on their assignment. Revisit one policy. So make sure that, every month, for example, you go back and reflect on a classroom rule. You can even make it part of their homework. So, ask them to give you feedback about how do they feel about certain classroom rules, certain classroom assignments. I would usually stop my class 10 minutes early and ask the students to give me feedback. How do they feel about the way I am teaching them? Do they want to see less of this, more of that? And I would assure them, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to punish you. I just want your perspective so as I can help you learn. And again, give choices. Make sure to allow students to choose. To be honest with you, even in my exams, I would allow the students to skip a question. So I would give them, let's say, 4 questions, and I would say, you are allowed to skip one, so answer only 3. My objective is not to make it difficult for them to achieve their academic goals. My objective is to make sure that they have every opportunity to succeed. One compliment a day. The first thing I would teach my students how to say in the target language is how to say excellent. So each time they answer correctly, I would teach them the phrase excellent in the target language, so as they can feel proud of themselves and they can compliment each other. So that used to be my one compliment per day. Oftentimes, I would also choose like a formaic term or something, well known in the target language, to teach them through a compliment. This way, they are learning something at a high level, so to speak, as well as, boosting their confidence, boosting their morale, not only in learning, but in a professional manner as well, because I want them to grow professionally as well as academically. The takeaways from today's discussion is listen and learn. So we value student voices as insights, not as interruptions. And that's why we keep creating these safe spaces for them to voice their opinion. Make space for leadership. So the end goal is to empower the student as a leader, not only as a learner, not only as someone who sits in the classroom, listens, take notes, and create a project like a passive learner, but perceive them as mentees. You want to empower them, you want to give them tools and resources so as they can lead, they become educational leaders. Invest intentionally. By intentionally, I mean take an action that you design to empower Black students or other marginalized groups. Give them a voice, give them an opportunity to shine, to lead, to say something in the classroom that is impactful, to deliver key remarks, to be part of a leadership group, any other opportunity that you see fit and feasible within your school or class. Advocate boldly. If you see a barrier, take an action to dismantle it. No matter how small is the action, it doesn't need to be something big, it doesn't need to be something huge. Simply make sure that there is no barrier between learning and excelling in your classroom based on the ethnicity or the background of the student. Allow your students to think big. Ask them if they want to be scientists, if they want to be engineers, if they want to go to Harvard, if they want to go to Yale. Make them think big. There's a huge, big world out there waiting for them to, be part of. And here we come to the end. And if you have any questions or any thoughts, I'm more than happy to listen. Again, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm very responsive. And my LinkedIn account is at Mishkat Al Mumin. And I'm more than happy to, engage with you, learn from you, and together we can empower our students and create and establish leadership qualities, while we are teaching them math or science or art, we can create the leaders of tomorrow. So thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you.